I will say that the training that we're going to talk through today comes straight from the Office of Personnel Management in DC. They are the source for USA jobs, the federal jobs that we're going to talk about. Everything on AUSA, they own the website, they post the jobs. They are the first humans to see your application after you submit it on USA Jobs. So I consider them the source for the most relevant information on making applications here. So we reached out to them a few occasions and have had them come and train our whole team, our veteran um, employment team here at Still Serving Veterans. And so it's pretty good information. So without any further ado, up front, we are Still Serving Veterans. We're a nonprofit 501c3, been in business since 2006. Everybody you'll talk to here, from the counselor standpoint, we're all veterans. We've all done our time in service. We've been through the transition. We've done some time working at a job or three on the civilian side after service. So we have been through the things that we counsel on. Everybody here is pretty highly trained. I myself have owned my own business, executive coaching and business coaching, business leadership coaching for the last 10 years. I'm trained by 4 global organizations to coach in a variety of genres. And I manage the Veteran Employment Group for the Veteran Employment Program for Still Serving Veterans. And we help veterans and their spouses. Everything we do is free. We won't ask you to pay for anything. We won't recommend services to you that are for pay. Uh, we talk about ChatGPT periodically. There's a pay side to that. I pay for it. I pay for LinkedIn, but those things can also be perfectly useful if you don't use them as much as we do on a day-to-day basis, help you with your job search for absolutely free. So this is me. I'm Dave Lake. I'm National Program Manager for Veteran Career Transition Team. That's my phone number, email address, my LinkedIn. If you need it, write it down real quick. I spent 24 years in the Navy, retired as a Chief Petty Officer in 2008. Formerly trained coach. I ran the TAP program for a little over a year at Navigator Logistics in Pax River, Maryland. I'm a licensed PMP. I've worked as a program management professional on the government side while I was still in uniform. And when I retired out of the Navy, my first job was also as a program manager, serving the government. And I did that for 6 years before I left there and went out of my own business. And then I'm also very active in the community. I sit on the board director of several nonprofit organizations. I'm a very active Freemason. Can't complain about it if you're not willing to get out and make change. And I definitely do too much of that. So that's me. All right. So this is what we're going to talk about today. Understanding USA Jobs, your profile, your resume, your application. And if you stay all the way till the end, then I'll offer you some free stuff. I'll be happy to email it to you. There we go. All right, so USA Jobs. Anybody get any questions? Need to know where the bathrooms are at or anything like that before we get started? All right, good deal. So USA Jobs is only for the executive branch. So if you want a job as a clerk or an assistant or janitor or security guard or something like that at Congress, say, or in judicial branch, you aren't going to find those jobs on USA Jobs. It's only the executive branch jobs, and then only competitive jobs. So if you want to be an FBI agent, NSA agent, jobs like that, where you do have to get in there and show your stuff, but they don't necessarily compete internally for advancement or promotion, then those jobs won't be on USA Jobs. Having said that, you get out there and search around and find out the jobs that are for you. Most of the jobs that people are looking for in the civilian world, a variation of them can be found on USA Jobs. The difference, though, is, particularly in the contracting world where I'm from, those jobs are highly skilled. They're not big on providing a lot of entry level training for, say, the college level jobs. The jobs that don't require a degree generally tend to be GS 10 and below. Jobs that do require a degree usually start around GS 11. You add GS 11 and move up. Those types of jobs in particular, you will see a requirement for experience or equivalent experience at the previous level in order to be successfully considered for that job. USA jobs are, federal jobs are extremely competitive, but one of the advantages that you have is going through trainings like this. And I will tell you, just so you know, I'm in it for you, not just for my own organization. USA Jobs does training on how to make federal applications. I'm sorry, the USO also does excellent training on how to make applications. You gotta look out for some of the training that's out there because it is for profit. They do the training so that they can get you in the door. They make offers in the training. So you got to come back to them to get those, benefits, and then they're going to try and charge you for something. So when you find yourself after a presentation with more questions than you started with and feeling like I just can't go forward without talking to that person, then there's a pretty good likelihood that they're going to ask you to pay for something sooner or later. And I just want to reiterate that that is not us. We are veterans. We are 100% in it for you. We all have a paycheck. We're paid for through great donors, and we're never going to try and charge anything. So my best advice for getting further training on this, because I don't have all the answers and can't possibly go over everything in the next hour, is to go through the USO or directly to USA Jobs for more training on making federal applications. But having said that, as I said, ours comes straight from USA Jobs, and we're going to leave you with enough information to be able to go forward and be dangerous. So, super important, read the entire job description. People go in there and they read the highlights at the top of the job summary, and then they start applying for the job and they get frustrated because they're not getting referred, callbacks, things like that. It's important to read the entire job description. Read the eligibility section in particular. That will tell you if you're eligible. A lot of those jobs that are posted out there are posted internal only, or for disabled only, or for veterans only, for veteran spouses only. And in those cases, if you don't fit in those categories, then you won't be eligible. So the eligibility criteria is extremely important. And when you fill out your initial profile, you have the opportunity to check those boxes. And what that does is it filters down the search so that they're only going to show you jobs that are eligible to you. If you don't check the box that you're a current or former federal employee, which you're not by virtue just by being a veteran, that doesn't make you a former federal employee. If you don't check that box, and the job is only open to current or former federal employees, not veterans, not spouses, not disabled, then they won't show you those jobs in your search. So take a look at the pathways and and make sure that you're choosing all that you're eligible for, including disability, and don't check the ones that you're not eligible for. Another thing is, when you apply for the job, there will be opportunities to attach documents to your application. And usually if you check a certain box, if you check a box saying that you're a veteran, they're going to want you to upload your DD-214. Federal employee, upload your, I think it's SF50 or something like that, showing that you're a federal employee. If you're disabled, then they'll want to see proof of your disability, and sometimes at a certain level, or maybe always at a certain level. I don't know. I mark myself as disabled because I had a heart attack 3 years ago. It was mild. I'm okay. Thanks for asking. But uh, I put it on there because by a lot of standards, you're considered disabled by virtue of having had a heart attack. So I put it on there. If they question me on it, then that'll be my explanation. And if they don't give me credit for it, I don't care. So, any questions on any of that? What's the standard on how long your government resume can be?
I want to say 5 pages.
Okay, that's good. Why do you think that?
I think I have when I went in and built it using the resume builder on there, I think the max that it takes is 5 pages. But from every class that I've taken on federal resume writing has said, 5 pages. They want you to kind of incorporate everything you've done, but shorten it up so that it's not so long. So 5 pages, from what I understand, is the standard with it from all the information and all the other classes I've taken.
Good deal. All right, so that's a great answer. The answer used to be, and maybe in some circles still is, and it just goes to show you that you can't believe everything you hear out there. There's a lot of bad advice on how to do federal resumes. But the standard used to be go long, make it as long as you want to. There's no limit. It can be just forever long. Well, yeah, but the problem is when I told you that OPM is the first human eyes that are going to look at your application, take a look at your resume. They're going to open it up in their viewer. They're not going to download every resume. They're not going to print it out. They're not going to open up Word or PDF or whatever you sent it in. They're not going to do that. They're going to open it up in their viewer. They're looking at it through the the USA Jobs viewer, just like you are. Only theirs going to look different on their side, but when they open it, they can only scroll 5 pages. So you can have it longer than that often, but it's going to be truncated down to that 5 pages. And I would say, if you were working with us, for the whole job search, we advocate, and certainly I advocate for putting your cover letter, make that the first page of your resume. And there's lots of reasons to do that, but primarily applicant tracking systems often only consider your resume in comparison to the job description to determine how closely your application matches the job description. And they do that so they know, right off the bat, give me the top 10 applicants for this job. And the computer's going to determine that based on are all the keywords and terms from your resume or from the job description found on your resume. And to keep you from having to tailor your resume every time, you keep your resume at 4 pages and you always tailor your cover letter and just make that the top of your resume. And by doing that, your resume is then tailored to match keywords and terms in the job description, and you get a higher raw score with the applicant tracking system and a better chance of getting a interview. And our experience here at Still Serving Veterans is over and over and over again. We use AI a lot with regards to resume creation and the job search and cover letters, things like that. And our experience is we have many people come, kind of hair on fire and say, I've been job searching for a long time and I just can't get a job. Can you guys help us out? And we say, sure. And we write them a cover letter, we write them a resume, we teach them how to use the AI, teach them how to use online tools, and poof, all of a sudden they start getting interviews, and we teach them how to do interviews, and they start getting job offers. And 4 weeks, about on average, about 4 weeks after they come to us, they end up with a job that they can accept, and they're in the job. So, um, you know, positive experience is a great teacher. So, long story short, is we recommend making cover letter the first page of your resume. So resume 4 pages plus cover letter is 5 pages. Don't go longer than that.
It's interesting that you say
On
that
the
because um I did a another online resume writing class, and a gentleman from the VA was talking about how cover letters sometimes make the difference, but when you're applying on USA Jobs, they make it optional. And most of the classes, they tell you that the hiring managers only have maybe a minute or two to look at your resume or whatnot. And so he was saying incorporating one, a cover letter, definitely sets you apart, but making it the first page of your resume, that is the first time I've heard it put that way. Thank you.
So just to expand on that a little bit, a cover letter is a plain language expression to who's ever reading it why you are a great fit for that job, using the proper keywords and terms, explaining when that experience, when you gained that experience, and how you're going to make a difference for them at their organization, what you bring to the table, that kind of stuff. It's plain language. Plain language today is much easier to read than all the military speak that we try to put in things, and we try and make our resume summary section and skill section sound all proper, and at the end of the day it sounds a little canned and rigid. And so hence the cover letter. And a cover letter, you can use bolder language, you can use a little bit more, not hyperbole, but language to get their attention that is less frequently found in resumes, right? So again, it's a little bit more plain language. If you do a great job of making a compelling argument in your resume, in your cover letter, as to why they should call you, now you've got their attention. They're gonna flip to page 2 and look at your resume. So again, we've had a lot of experience making that work. You can try it both ways. If it's scary to you, or it doesn't fit with your amount of urgency, do it the other way. Either way, you're better off having a tailored cover letter than not having a cover letter. I say always apply the cover letter. Again, it's that plain language opportunity to speak to the recruiter, um, usually in a language that resonates a little bit better with them. But thanks for that comment. So a government resume is different from a civilian resume in a few ways. Um, Civilian resume, and even we espouse this a little bit, with the application, you want to, the application resume should be very focused towards the job description often. We kind of do it differently where, we have a lot of retired military come to us. If you're, 1 or 2 term military, and maybe you're just getting out, or you've been out for a few years and your time in the military was a little bit short, let's say you're, 30, 35, you've got 15 years of work experience. You can do that on 2 pages. If you're retiring out of the military, or you've got 20, 25 plus years of work experience, then that's going to be a longer resume. So, I say have a very concise resume that packs information in there. The way. One second. Can y'all see this Word document, or are you still only seeing the PowerPoint? Can you see the Word document?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the way that's written with narrow margins all the way around, and it's really tight. There's a ton of text on there. That's how I write resumes. I want I want people to see as much information as I can pack into those top 2/3 of a page before they have to scroll. I want to pack all that information in there so that they're getting lots of information from If you do the 1 inch all around with room after every paragraph and all that, leaves so much white space on there. It's just not efficient. So I do a really tight resume, lots of information up front to grab their attention and get them to want to call you for an interview. Still use 11 pitch font. I tend to use a skinny font like Garamond. Um, when you write your resume for the government, for a federal resume, so you can go a little long. You can include all of your information. I definitely don't recommend including only 7 to 10 years of information. You hear that a lot from recruiters. Only put the last 7 to 10 years. We don't care beyond that. If you're going for a senior manager job, an executive manager job, something that's going to tap um, into your master's degree and your many years of experience. If you're going for $150,000 a year plus job, go long. Show them those years of experience. Let them know everything you're bringing to the table because they're hiring you for your experience. Nobody hires a 30-year-old into a senior executive position where they want you to have 30 years of experience. So show it. Let them know what you're bringing to the table. On a federal resume, you'll also have dates and hours. On a civilian resume, you'll show I had this job from this month and year to this month and year. Uh, in addition to that, on a federal resume, you'll show how many hours a week you had that you worked that job. It might be 30, 40, 60. Don't get ridiculous with it. But for me, when I was on deployment, we worked 60, 70 hours a week plus, 12 hour days, 7 days a week, plus drill time outside of working hours. So we had long working hours. In the civilian world, when I was program managing at a $1 billion tech company, it was not unusual for me to work 60, 70 hours a week. Nothing wrong with putting that on your resume if it's true. If you held simultaneous roles, let's say when you're in uniform, you were the section leader in addition to being a shop supervisor, and you were the corrosion control officer for your department, then how many hours a week were you section leader? How many hours a week did you dedicate to corrosion control for the department? And how many hours a week did you have available to dedicate to being the work center supervisor? So break it out because all of that speaks to your amount of experience in a given role. If they say they need you to have 5 years of experience as in a supervisory role, and the corrosion control program is mostly paperwork, and the section leader was mostly paperwork, but the supervising in the environment that they're looking for, you only did for 30 hours a week. Well, then cumulatively, you need to make sure you show that 2,080 hours, it's 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. 2,080 hours is full time, 40 hours a week. So if you had that for 5 years, then you have 5 years experience. If you worked, 30 hours a week at that for 5 years, then you have 3 years and 9 months of experience by full-time employee standards. So that's why they want to see those hours on your resume because, like I said, it's extremely competitive. And if somebody else puts down 40 hours a week and you put down 30 hours a week, all else being equal, then the other person has more experience than you do. And if that's what they're looking for is a lot of experience in the position, then they'll get hired where you won't. But you can brag on a government resume, on your federal resume. In the civilian world, it would not be proper, and it isn't proper. And if it's on your resume, take it off to say, I worked at this organization at this location. I held this title, and I had it from this month and year to this month and year. These were my high level duties and responsibilities, and I took these actions and got these results. Those are your bullets. From a military standpoint, you can go to your military evaluations while you had that title, pull out your strongest bullets from your evaluations and your award write-ups, build those into your resume, and that would be great. And for your military time, at the end of that command, your experience in that title, you can say, and as a result of my actions and achievements, I was awarded a Army Commendation Medal or whatever. Um, and so that's a little bit of a brag, but it shows that you were held above your peers, you were given recognition of a significant nature for the actions and results that you had while you were in that position. That means something in the federal world, where they're a little bit better about that than in the civilian world. Civilian world doesn't know what an Army Commendation Medal is, doesn't know what it takes to get one. They probably don't care. Most of the employees at the organization aren't going to have one, so it's not a fair from a competitive nature. So it's not proper to put that stuff on your civilian resume. Definitely put it on your federal resume though. And then make it from scratch in the system. When you go to apply for a job, it'll give you two options: upload your resume or build it from scratch using the USA Jobs widget. Use the widget. All right, you get to have 5 resumes on file in your USA profile. So if you're like me and you're a program manager, you build one resume from scratch using their widget for that speaks to and uses the language of program management. But if you're a program manager, you're also an operations manager. So build a second one using the keywords and terms that you would find in a typical resume for an operations manager. Build that into your operations resume and upload and build that using the widget into your USA Jobs profile. If you're a program manager, you're also a logistics manager. So, look up the top 5 or 6, logistics job descriptions that you would love to have that you mostly qualify for, 75% or better, and build that common language into your logistics manager resume, and then build that into your profile on USA Jobs. Logistics, operations, business manager, program manager, project manager. There's 5 resumes. When you go to apply for the job, you look at the job title, and whichever one it's appropriate to is the resume that you pick to upload without any changes for that job description. And then you write a cover letter that is highly tailored to that job description, and you attach that to your application. So by doing that, if you uploaded a resume specific to a job description and did that every time, you only get to apply for 5 jobs because you only get to have 5 resumes in the system. If you build a common resume for one silo, one stovepipe, like program management, then every time you see a program manager job, you can apply using that resume and then tailor your cover letter. Everybody understand all that? Any questions on any of that? Anything I say contradicts something else you've been taught? Let's talk about that. Okay. I see you scratching your head, Marcia.
Hi, I'm just reading over your bullets as far as go along with the dates and the hours equals your experience. If you have more than one job responsibility within your position, do you have to break out the number of hours per duty within your position or?
So I would say it depends. So let's say I'm a work center supervisor, E6 in the Navy, and I'm responsible for 26 people. This is, where I was before I made chief, responsible for 26 people in my work center. So within that, I was responsible for making duty section assignments for them, making sure that they had the proper training for the various jobs that they performed aboard ship. I was responsible for making sure that they completed certain personal qualification standards, like for air warfare pins and for to be able to do corrosion control or to be a shipboard firefighter. And so I was more of a training officer in that aspect. Um, but my overall job title that I'm being mostly evaluated for is as a work center supervisor. So if you're applying for a job that says uh, where you need to highlight your ability to manage in a very diverse environment, you might show all of it. But if they only want to know about your experience managing corrosion control operations, then maybe you only spend 10% of your week doing that, and 80% of your week doing another bit, and 10% doing another bit. So um, most people, vast majority, will put down 40, 50 hours um, per week. They manage this group of people handling these operations, which included everything from care and feeding of the people under my charge to making sure that they were physically fit and prepared for deployment, had all their various, boxes checked for that purpose. We also maintained X number of aircraft or tanks or whatever. You put all the numbers in and pack it into your various duties under that responsibility. Um, that's what I see most of the time. People tend not to break out all of those side gigs that they had that made them more competitive in their field and more competitive for advancement. Not a great answer, but that's what I got.
That's okay. I appreciate it. Two, hopefully, quick questions. One is, do you have a sample of the resume that you're describing? And then the other is, how many bullets are recommended for each position that we're putting on our resume?
So number of bullets, I'll take that one first. 5 or 6 for the most recent years. Maybe for the past, 5 to 7 years, you have more bullets because that experience is, honestly more relevant to those recruiters. But your greatest hits, the really impactful bullets, you want to make sure that they're on there the further back that you go, because it speaks to what you're bringing to the table, but you just can't be infinitely long on your resume.
Got
A
it.
couple of guys that worked for me were tag teaming a 12-page resume this morning,
Well,
and I told them, look, you got to take that back to the veteran and have them tailor it down, because I don't want to be going into somebody's 12-page resume and pulling bullets out saying irrelevant, irrelevant. That person has to decide for himself, what was the most relevant experience while you were at that job, and take out the ones that are less relevant. Normally, I'm looking for maybe 5 bullets, give or take, per section all the way through the resume.
okay.
Usually the ones, longer ago, you know, people have put like 3 bullets in there, the most impactful 3 bullets. At that time, they were more junior, and they, as a less senior, more junior person, you have stuff of less impact to the organization to talk about. So further back, fewer bullets, aim for at least 3, I would say, per experience section. And those bullets should be quantifiable. Numbers and data. We're not looking for, I showed up for work, I wore a clean, crisp uniform, just the milquetoast bullets. Nobody wants to see that. Tell me what you did to break out and make a difference and be more competitive against your peers.
Okay.
Okay. And the second question was, do I have an example? I don't. The best example you can have is by using the widget, answering every question. And we don't have those for a reason. Yeah, you can print off your resume from USA Jobs, and we do have lots of those, but we don't hand them out because the best advice is to answer every question in building your resume, copy and paste from your master resume the stuff that you can, and then fill in the other stuff. Like What was your supervisor's name? How do we get in touch with them? Is it okay to get in touch with them? How many hours a week? What was they want to know what your pay level was at each experience. My people say, well, I don't remember what I got paid 15 years ago when I was, petty officer, whatever, at this command. Well, I would bet you that from every command listed in your experience, you remember what your pay grade was when you were there. So go on to Google and look up what is the total pay and allowance compensation for an E5 in the Navy, and whatever number Google spits out, put that number down.
Okay.
And it'll be okay. Nobody's going to go fact check your stuff to that extent. What they're looking for is a gauge of at what level are you a player. If they're looking for somebody to fill a GS-15 role that needs a bachelor's degree, you have a bachelor's degree, you have experience in this area, but you were a floor supervisor for your whole time, responsible for 10 people and no real budget to speak of, then you're not the person, you know.
Okay.
GS-15 is typically going to be a senior, almost a senior executive, needs a Senate level confirmation. GS-16 is an SES employee, requires Senate level confirmation to take the job. So 15 is one step below that, and E5, anybody coming out of the military straight out with just their 1 or 2 terms in the military is not stepping into an SES position.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. Applications. Follow the process. So, you go screen by screen, and so it basically sets up how to do it. Um, the there's a transition point in the application. Like the first many questions are just basic HR, demographic, you know, tell me about your time in the military, upload a DD-214, what was your pay grade, how much you get paid, all that stuff. That's just HR stuff. And then it makes a transition to the organization that you're applying for, and then they ask their questions. If you're a mechanical engineer, they're going to ask environment, or electrical engineer, computer engineer, software engineer. They're going to ask environment specific questions to gauge your professional level of experience in a given field. And so you want to make sure that you don't stop when you hit the point where it says, all right, we're done asking HR questions, and then because it goes on and is going to ask those professional questions, may even have you take some tests in some instances. So it's kind of an opportunity to really show your work, so to speak. So you want to go all the way through until it says, congratulations, you're done with your application. You'll hear from us sooner or later. Just make sure you follow the process all the way until it says you are done, and you'll hear from us. Attach your documents. You can attach several documents. Usually it's going to be, like I said, your D-214, SF-50, disability paperwork, things like that. Sometimes college transcripts. The things that people used to go really long on in their federal resume were things like award write-ups and college transcripts, and a list of the military schools that you attended, and all this. It's like backup information, right? So take all that out of your resume, create it as a separate document, and have it listed under your profile with your documents that are available to attach. Because when you create that application, it'll say upload your cover letter, upload your D-214, upload your resume, and then it'll give you opportunity to upload any other backup information. And that's your opportunity to upload some of those attaching documents. So have them available, have them formalized, have them available for, consumption. I mean, professionally formatted and stuff. But make them part of your profile. So when you go to apply, it's right there in your profile. You hit click and you can attach it. Owner, Mr. Owner with your hand raised, Mr. or Mrs. Owner.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry, afternoon, evening. I have a question because I applied for a job, and they were saying that I didn't get the job because um I didn't upload my SF50, which I did. And I went back and I saw that I uploaded SF50. So I was like, there is no way to contact anyone to say, yes, it is uploaded. Is it best just well, the job is gone now, but if something like that happened, you just go back and upload it again? Because I checked and I was like, it's right there. So why are they saying the reason I didn't get the job because I didn't upload my SF50?
Yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. Um, you know, congratulations on getting any response at all from them. And I know that sounds flippant a little bit, but that's the reality of it. A lot of people apply for those jobs and get zero response at all, except for referred to the hiring manager or referred to the organization, which means you made it past the HR portion. Um, and then sorry, you were not selected for the job, period. So you got at least some feedback. So good for that. I don't know of any redress procedure. I bet there is one. I'm just not aware of it. I will say the OPM is pretty uh, um, accessible to answer questions. So you might look for a way to reach out to OPM and ask them about that specifically. But I apologize, I don't have that answer for you.
Now, who's the
Another
OPM?
great
What you
reason,
mean, OPM?
off, Office of Personnel Management. That's the government office that runs the USA Jobs website.
Okay.
They are essentially HR for the executive branch.
Okay, and their information should be on USA Jobs, like the phone number
I
or
bet you it
something?
is. I bet you it is. Yep. Can't tell you for sure, but I bet I'd be amazed if it wasn't there.
Thank you.
Okay. So we talked about tailoring cover letters rather than tailoring your resume. Your resume, you definitely want to tailor to the environment, to the field, professional field. But I wouldn't recommend tailoring it. I don't recommend tailoring it to every job that you apply for because of the reasons I already explained. Have one built for each field. And then hard soft skills. Um, you can go a little bit more into that on your federal resume than you can on a civilian resume. Civilian resumes, you're writing them for people who don't understand military experience, don't have the level of leadership and work ethic and stick to itiveness and all those great hardcore skills that military folks and military spouses bring to the table. We are much more adaptable. We are much, and it sounds like I hate civilians. It's not true, but I've been out for 15 years. I deal with a lot of employers and a lot of people, and I've heard a lot of stories on this. So I feel pretty secure in what I'm saying to you. Um, we bring to the table as military members such high quality work ethic and experience and abilities, mostly, I won't say universally, but mostly, that it can be intimidating and disruptive in the civilian work environment to the extent that in interviews, you need to dial it back. It's one of the biggest problems that people have coming out of the military and going through interviews is that they talk about their strong leadership skills and they start asking questions about, can you tell me? I had a Marine major in my office, and we were talking about interviews and why he was getting interviews, but he wasn't getting job offers. And I said, well, tell me about that. He said, well, one of the questions I always ask is, why is this job vacant? What can you tell me about the amount of churn in the organization? That's, how long do people tend to stay? Why do they leave? That kind of stuff. What can you tell me about the churn? And then what is it about the leadership environment that you have so many people leaving so often? And that's an insulting question, you know, because that leader is in the room. And he's not going to explain that to an applicant candidate. And it's not an appropriate time to ask that question. But it's indicative of the kind of, in your face, let's get this job fixed, figure out what's wrong, overcome it and move forward so that we can improve as an organization. Nothing wrong with that kind of stuff in the military world, but the civilian world, it's intimidating and disruptive. So all that to say, tone down the hard skills, bullets, and achievements in your resume a little bit. Just put the data. I was in charge of X number thousand, 100 people. We created goals to change the organization, mission, planning, way we did work in this way. We created working groups. We, you know, came together, implemented the change, and saw an X% improvement over the course of the following 15 to 18 months, or whatever the bullets are. But very data based and less hardcore soft skill based in your face kind of stuff. Go strong in your federal application, tone it down in your civilian one. Bridget, get your hand up. How can I help?
Yeah, so I actually have two questions. The first one is real quick. So if a position only requires you to submit one or two of the specific documents, do you recommend adding the other ones as well, such as like your VA benefits letter, your 214 and those? Because I recently received a rejection saying that I didn't upload all the proper documents, but I uploaded what was required. And so is that a recommendation, like the whole situation of more is better than less type?
The system is it's ideally you would think that it's intuitive, but OPM will tell you, that's why we emphasize at the beginning, read the job description, every bit of it. You can't be held to task for the things that they didn't say, that they didn't ask you for, but you can for the things that they did. Another thing I didn't mention is often there's links that's going to take you down a different rabbit hole on those job descriptions, and make sure you follow those links to make sure that you don't miss something. So, sometimes it'll say this is a GS-12 position, but it may be filled from the GS-11 position as well. If you meet the requirements for a GS-11 in this position, go here to see what those requirements are. So you got to follow that down, and maybe in those other requirements, it'll say, in order to show proof of this, you got to upload these documents. I don't know what your case is specifically, but I've seen how the failure to follow those links out one or two clicks can get people in trouble. So again, I don't know what your specific situation was, but not the first time I've heard that stuff either. You got to apply everything in there that they asked for. If you're a military member and they didn't ask for your D-214 and the eligibility requirement says that it's open to veterans, send it whether they ask it or not.
Okay, I started doing it after that. I said I started doing it after that rejection, even if it didn't ask for it.
And same thing for federal employees. If it says that the eligibility includes current and former federal employees, put up your SF-50. Make sure you get credit for having had that. If you're going to say that you are disabled and you want credit for that, and you have a VA letter that defines that, then attach that. So it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. But OPM also said, please don't make us read stuff we don't need to read. So
Right.
be judicious in what you put up there. Don't say, well, you didn't ask it, so I didn't send it, even though I knew you were going to need it, but you didn't ask it, so I didn't send it. Well, in uniform, that's shooting yourself in the foot. So don't shoot yourself in the foot.
Fair enough. And then I did have one other one about the questionnaires. I don't know if you have any tips on those, but whenever you fill those out based on like your experience, when I asked you the different levels that you have of experience in those variations, is there like a recommendation on how to better respond to those, I guess? So like sometimes it asks you if you have experience as far as like the operational side, or do you have the experience in delegating? But if you have both, is how do you identify what is the better route to go when responding to those that better suit those positions? Because I've kind of received, a rejection based off of my responses to those, even though I may have experience in all three levels. How do you know which one's the one they're looking for that specific role? Does that make sense?
It does make sense,
Okay.
and I know exactly what you're talking about because I've had them on mine, and I struggle with that too. If you're just the logic in my head says that if you're applying for a management level job, and the answers to those questions vary from operational on the way up to managerial, from an organization standpoint, I would love to hire someone into a management role who has management experience that started on the shop floor and came up through the ranks so they know everything about the system,
Mm-hmm.
employing it, fixing it, all that stuff, and then ascended up to a level of manager. So how do you answer that question for that? Unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for that. Um, I would say I'm not even gonna answer that. I just don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, thanks.
And I was stumped by it too. So I've had to fill out those applications.
Okay. Well, I've tried it both ways to see which one gets a better response on multiple ones, because it's really difficult to find out what they're really looking for in those aspects, and like answering those when you meet the qualifications, but then get a rejection because you didn't answer it the way they wanted you to, when there's no way to really know which direction they want you to respond. Because as a leader, you obviously want the ability to execute, but you also want to know that you can delegate. So depending on that position, how you respond can either be a yay or a negative or a positive, and you don't know which one they're looking for. And so I was
So
trying to see if,
the
yeah.
the sad truth about most of these jobs that we're talking about is they get hired through somebody knowing somebody.
Mhm.
And so the best thing you can do is not only apply for the job, but get on LinkedIn, find out who their contractors are, dig in through LinkedIn to connect with people who are in those fields, maybe in those offices, and have an offline conversation with them. Say, I'm very interested in this role. I've applied for this role. I'm perfect fit for this organization. Can you give me any insights? Can you help make connections? And that's exactly what LinkedIn is for. And a lot of people are reluctant to get out there and use it that way, but the ones who do it best, and the most often, don't stay unemployed for long.
Okay.
And they tend to be able to network into jobs that they're looking for. So don't be afraid to go those other routes to connect back to those jobs,
Gotcha.
especially when it says direct hire. Direct hire jobs means that there's probably an SES close to that job that has the ability to review your application and circumvent the whole rest of the system and have you in the job within just a few weeks. It's a
Okay.
very, very fast track when you're dealing with a direct hire situation. The other ones, I don't encourage any transitioning service member to go after a federal job as their, you know, one and done solution. I'm only going to take a federal job. I'm not even interested in civilian jobs. I want to stay in the federal system. All the benefits, all the pay, blah blah blah, is a horrible idea, because the fastest I've ever seen anybody go from application to the job, to like a paycheck in the job, is 3 months. That's the fastest I've ever seen. Um, but it can be 18 months. And who has time for that just coming out of uniform? even officers with big paychecks and disabilities and stuff, who has time for that? So take the job you can get, the civilian job you can get, until you get the federal job that you want, and is a better route, I think, unless you know somebody who's definitely able to plug you into a direct hire situation. Okay. So the only other thing, super top secret, don't tell anybody. So OPM told us that, it is in the civilian world, when you create a resume, you attach your LinkedIn profile URL at the top, right? Put name, address, phone number, email address, and your LinkedIn URL. If you put that on your federal resume, they're supposed to reject your application out of hand without a review. And that's because the job description says specifically, do not include a picture with your application. It says it in almost every instance except for like a PR, public facing, on camera all the time role. If it's not a visual role like that, then the rest of the job description will say, do not include a picture. It's your LinkedIn profile, if properly filled out, has a picture. They're supposed to reject you out of hand. Don't put a LinkedIn URL on your federal application. Okay? So bonus for staying to the end. I gave you my email address at the beginning. I'll give it to you here again before we cut off. dlakin@ssv.org. Right here, dlakin@ssv.org. And email me. Tell me what you thought of the presentation. Don't hurt my feelings. And I will send you back my notes that I go through as we're talking, just to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay? dlakin@ssv.org. And with that, that is my presentation. I try to keep it to an hour so I don't overtax anybody's time. And if you like some help with your federal job search, civilian job search, post-military job search, come and work with us, and we're happy to do it. We get great results. We just want you to get the best job that you are able to in the shortest amount of time. Okie doke.
Sounds great.
Thumbs
Thank
up,
you.
Laura.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely glad to help. dlakin@ssv.org, and I'll send you my my cheat sheet. Oh, and OPM gave us a couple of handouts that we refer to often going through training.